All life works electrically. A contribution from the Well Foundation for Natural Science as part of their series, How Artificial Electromagnetic Radiation Harms Life, Part 2. Have you ever wondered how a seed can grow into a plant? How does a cell know what its characteristics are, and above all where it belongs? Who or what tells the plant what to look like? The origin of life and the growth of a living being are a mystery that science has no explanation for. Is the information perhaps stored in certain sections of DNA? The growth of a living being is based only partially on the information contained in the genes. The cells decode the genes to get information which they mainly need to build proteins. Proteins form the basic material for life. They are responsible for the structure and function of each living cell of the body and control biochemical processes. But where does the body get the information about which cell should occupy what space? As with building a house, a blueprint is needed to put windows and doors in the right place. In the 1940s, Dr. Harold Saxton Burr, an anatomy professor at Yale University, investigated the form of energy fields in living animals and plants in order to get to the bottom of this blueprint. His field measurements on unfertilized salamander eggs became famous. Burr measured the electrical potential around the egg and noted the measured value and the respective position. The subsequent graphical evaluation of the potential differences to each other yielded a fascinating picture. That is to say, a fully grown salamander. The shape of the adult animal was already laid out in the salamander egg, or rather, in the electric field around the salamander egg. He also made such measurements on the seeds of cereal plants. The result was identical. The measured value on the seed gave the image of the fully grown plant. Dr. Burr called this electrical potential field the electrodynamic field. So the answer to our original question is, it is the electric field of a living being that contains the blueprint and determines the shape of the body. In a much more complex biological system such as the human body, the shape and function of any group of cells is determined by three factors. 1. The genetic information of the cell, DNA. 2. The relationship to neighbour cells, i.e. cell communication. And 3. The position they occupy in the electrodynamic field. But it's not only living beings that have an electrodynamic field. Harold Saxton Burr wrote, "The universe in which we find ourselves and from which we cannot be separated is a place of law and order. It is not an accident nor chaos. It is organized and maintained by an electrodynamic field capable of determining the position and movement of all charged particles. Growth and life means constant movement. The life energy required for this is provided by cosmic radiation. It consists of high-energy, electrically charged particles that probably originate from the Sun, the Milky Way, and distant galaxies. However, the exact origin of cosmic rays is still unknown. This large number of incoming cosmic particles would have the potential to endanger the fragile life on Earth. Fortunately, however, the Earth has a protective shield. Our planet is surrounded by a magnetic field with enormous dimensions, which directs much of the radiation around the Earth. Nevertheless, many electrically positively charged particles reach the Earth's surface. The Earth's surface is in turn negatively charged. If the positive charge that continuously arrives on the Earth's surface were not balanced, it would neutralize the negative charge of the Earth within a very short time, and life on Earth could no longer exist. It therefore needs a mechanism by which the positively charged particles are transported back into the atmosphere. This task is carried out by millions of lightning bolts around the globe, which illuminate the sky daily in about 40,000 thunderstorms. The negatively charged particles, which determine the charge of the Earth's surface, contain free electrons. These electrons are able to reduce positive charges in the human body. Such excessive positive charges are found in the body, for example, in free radicals. Free radicals are molecules, atoms, or ions which are unpaired and thus have a free electron. They are highly reactive and can cause oxidative stress in the body, which can lead to many diseases. Free radicals, as they are also generated by mobile phone radiation, circulate in our body in search of electrons to complete themselves. In doing so, they can also destroy healthy cells. As soon as these free radicals connect with the negative electrons of the Earth, they are saturated and no longer cause any damage in the body. This electrical compensation of free electrons can take place when we connect to the Earth, for example by walking barefoot in the grass or on the beach. By earthing ourselves in this way, our physical well-being is increased and the body's self-healing powers are supported. Living beings are also connected to the Earth via other electric and magnetic fields. Thus, the Earth's magnetic field not only protects against too much cosmic radiation, but also serves as navigation support, for example, for birds and insects. In 1971, zoologist Professor William T. Keaton of Cornell University in the United States investigated how animals orient themselves on the Earth's magnetic field in an experiment with pigeons. Pigeons can orient themselves by recognizable features on the ground, such as trees, hedges, roads, or buildings. But what happens if you take this orientation possibility away from the birds? In the first trial, the pigeons were fitted with translucent contact lenses. This way they could see light, but could no longer make out contours. The pigeons were released in Marathon, which is 45 kilometers north of Ithaca in the United States. Although the birds do not normally fly over open waters, they flew directly to Lake Ontario until they came across the next magnetic field line. They followed this line until they reached their destination. In the second trial, the pigeons were additionally equipped with a magnet on the back of the head, which prevented them from orienting themselves on the Earth's magnetic field. This time the pigeons did not return for 1 or 2 days, and then only after the magnets had fallen off. In human brain cells and the brain membrane, there are millions of magnetite crystals, which help humans to orient themselves on the magnetic field. Magnetite crystals can receive weak signals. They react over 1 million times more sensitively to external magnetic fields than any other biological material. Also, 30% of the molecules of the pineal gland are metallic and therefore magnetically sensitive. Thus, external magnetic fields directly influence the brain, which can cause changes in metabolic functions. This is why we should not hold our mobile phone directly to our head when making a phone call. Another way to connect with the Earth is through its heartbeat. The heartbeat of the Earth was discovered in 1952 by the German physicist and electrical engineer Winfried Otto Schumann. The Schumann resonance, named after its discoverer, is approximately 7.83 Hz, which is 7.83 beats per second. This frequency range is also known as extremely low frequency, or ELF for short. These ELF waves have a special significance. Many natural electrical signals, such as those produced by muscle contraction or generated by the human brain, are within the ELF range. The electrical connection between the Earth and its living beings, including humans, is vital. The chronobiologist Professor Rutger Wever from the German Max Planck Institute, in conducting more than 400 experiments between 1964 and 1989, showed that we cannot live healthily without this connection to the Earth. The experiment worked as follows. Volunteers spent several days in a bunker completely insulated from light and isolated from the electrical field of the Earth. The Schumann resonance was no longer perceptible to them. After a short time, they became nauseous and felt uncomfortable. This changed immediately as soon as Wever initiated the frequency of 7.83 Hz into the bunker. Interestingly, the alpha waves of the human brain are also exactly in the range of the Schumann resonance. Alpha waves are characteristic of a relaxed waking state, while the brain is at the same time wide awake and active. Even communication within the human body is done by means of electrical signals. Thus each organ has its own resonance frequency, so to speak its own address, with which it can receive corresponding signals. This fact is well known in medicine and is used for diagnostic devices based on the reception of electrical and magnetic signals and fields from the body. Examples are magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, and electrocardiograms, ECG. We all know from our own experience that in interpersonal communication, the spoken word is only a small part of the message. At least as important is the connection of two people through the magnetic fields of their hearts. It gives the message the colouring by which the recipient can weigh and interpret the spoken words. This is even reflected in our vocabulary. If we are attracted to a person or understand him or her well, then we are on the same wavelength. Our magnetic fields resonate and our hearts communicate with each other. Resonance is a scientifically well-documented phenomenon. It is a property of all systems, from the smallest structures such as atoms to planets or even galaxies. For example, molecules with similar properties are in resonance, and cells use resonance to communicate, multiply, and even during healing processes. All these described communication processes in the human body require energy. In living cells, there is an electrical voltage above almost all membranes. As with a battery, this voltage indicates the energy and thus the state of health of the cell. The energy for maintaining this electrochemical potential comes largely from the energy-rich molecule ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is produced in the mitochondria, the power plants of the cells. Many studies have shown that technically generated electromagnetic radiation can alter DNA in the mitochondria and lead to permanent damage. The science of epigenetics, which is becoming more and more important, is changing our understanding of how life works. Epigenetics proves that man is not only a body, but also spirit, and that his thoughts and feelings influence his world much more than we had previously thought. Everything we had excluded from the medical model, energy, thought, mind, feeling, now turns out to be the main mechanism of interaction with physical reality. Specific frequencies and patterns of electromagnetic radiation control DNA, RNA, and protein synthesis. They also influence protein shape and function and control cell division, morphogenesis, hormone release, nerve growth, and nerve functions. These new findings show that the environment and our perception of it can override the programming in our genes. Through our thoughts, we can in fact actively change our genes. Therefore, we are not a victim of our genes, but rather a victim of our thoughts and feelings. Electrical and magnetic impulses thus play a leading role in all processes relating to life on Earth and beyond. Technically generated electromagnetic radiation superimposes and disturbs the fine, natural electrical and magnetic signals and fields in nature quite considerably. What does this mean for mobile communication? The special properties of mobile signals are high peak values, extremely fast changing signals, pulse frequencies in the range of biological signals, and continuous radiation. The technical signals shown symbolically in the image by the bars impose their properties on the body's own signals, shown symbolically by the waves, and thus prevent clear communication between cells. They also produce free radicals which can lead to health problems and even chronic diseases. Nature provides everything we need for a healthy life. We understand better and better now that all life processes are in perfect balance, and that we humans disturb this harmony, especially with modern communication technology. Our aim must be not to harm life on Earth with our supposedly advanced inventions. Start personally by limiting your use of radio-based devices as much as possible. Make a strong commitment to harmless alternatives. Recommend this video and inform people where you live about how and why microwaves and mobile communications harm life. On our website, you can also find an article on this video with additional information and sources.